Well, I'm super grateful to be here. My name's Jon. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of QA Wolf. We're based here in Seattle, over near Inner Bay. And I was really excited to be invited to give this talk about the future of test automation, because that's all we do at QA Wolf. Before I get into the future, I'm actually going to take us back 10 years ago in the past when I was leading engineering at this logistics software company based out of Boston called Dispatch. And back at Dispatch, we managed logistics for about 30,000 plumbers and contractors. They relied on us to figure out where to go, dispatch their team, receive work. And I shipped a bug that broke our platform, which led to a bunch of phone calls from these small businesses who wanted to figure out, why are we not receiving work? They had to fall back to using faxes, and that led us on urgently figuring out what was wrong with our software, having to fix the bug, and then the next day go through a post-mortem. And I'm curious here, who's ever shipped a critical bug before? Who here has been through a post-mortem before? Who's had to lead a post-mortem? Who here likes doing post-mortems? So that's the inspiration for QA Wolf. We set out to solve this problem, and our mission is to eliminate every software bug in the world. And the problem that we're setting out to solve right now is the fact that the vast majority of teams have really low automated end-to-end test coverage. And what happens when you have low test coverage is, if you don't end up testing all of the features that you need to test back at Dispatch, it was a completely preventable bug had we tested it, that led to us shipping a critical bug. Or a lot of times teams have to introduce a manual QA process, which slows down your ability to actually get stuff into production. And in this world of generative AI, we're trying to accelerate how many features we're shipping. You need to have a fast QA process to get things into production that your customers can rely on. And so I'm going to talk about where we are today and where we're headed. But to do that, we need to understand what are some of the problems that exist with getting high automated test coverage. One of the problems, one of the first problems companies run into is they don't have the time to invest in creating automated tests. Their engineering teams are super busy trying to ship features for customers, and especially knowing that a lot of these tests are going to end up failing, they decide they don't want to invest the time in doing it. And this is a barrier that a lot of teams end up running into and not getting past. Then we have a ton of customers that come to us who have created tests. They have hundreds of tests that they don't have the time to maintain. They end up starting to turn off these tests as they fail because there's such an unreliable signal. They lose trust in these tests. And trying to keep this talk a little bit light here with these. Another problem that companies run into with these end-to-end tests is, because they're constantly failing, they lose trust in the tests. They don't invest the time needed to investigate and reproduce the false positives that come from end-to-end testing, and that leads to teams losing trust in their automated test coverage. And so at QA Wolf, to ensure companies don't run into these problems, we've decided to tackle this entire end-to-end problem of how do you deliver automated test coverage and guarantee that coverage. And I'm going to get into the AI piece in a bit, but we've had to do a few things. We've built technology to make it easier to do test creation, running the tests, maintaining the tests, and reproducing bugs. We've also built AI, which I'm going to show shortly, to automate and streamline those processes. But we've also invested a ton in hiring QA engineers to do this work. We've interviewed tens of thousands of QA engineers to build up our QA engineering team. And we have a platform internally called TaskWolf that we use to manage that QA engineering team, to make sure that we're distributing work effectively and we understand where we're investing time. And that leads us into what I'm going to talk about in a little bit with AI. But with this coverage that we're providing for our customers, on average last year, our customers are able to ship 5 times more frequently with 75% less bugs. So this is a very significant impact that this automated coverage has for them once they are able to get it successfully in place. We caught 15,000 critical bugs for our customers, and was meeting with one of our customers, Ilya. He leads the DevOps at Metronome. They provide billing for OpenAI, usage-based billing. And they came to us because they were shipping 4 times a day, but they were starting to ship regressions that they couldn't ship anymore, and they were going to have to slow down the release process if they didn't get those under control. But now with the automated coverage that they have in place, they're able to run continuous delivery, have a large amount of coverage that they can trust. Once that passes, they can release without shipping critical bugs. So this is the power of test automation once you get it in place. And the question is, where does AI fit into this? What's the future of test automation look like? And that's something we've been investing in for many years now. Because at QA Wolf, as I talked about earlier, we've built this vertically integrated coverage factory where we've aligned our incentives with our customers to charge them based off of test coverage. So it's our job to become as efficient as possible and figure out how to do this test automation as efficiently as possible. TaskWolf, our internal platform that manages or helps manage our QA engineering team, shows us where we're spending all of our time. And we've used that data to decide where do you want to invest in building AI agents to help do some of this work that our QA engineering team is doing. Now, the future of our automation team and what I believe the future of QA engineering looks like is that very similar to the future of what coding looks like. Instead of engineers doing the work, right with their IDE, they prompt an agent. An agent takes on a task, and they review the work that the agent does. They give it feedback. Something I saw mentioned earlier is that you're continually giving this information back to the agent and being a really good review for it to get it that last 20% of where you want to get it to. So I'm going to go ahead and do a live demo here. Hopefully this works well. Where I'm going to go over, I don't have time to demo all of the AI, but I'll go over some AI that helps our team plan tests and also helps our team create tests to show you how we're using AI for this test automation. So I'm going to go ahead and ask this to please create a test plan, explore Google News, and outline tests. And while that's doing that, while this is exploring Google News, I'm also going to create a test here just by talking to our AI. Okay. Create a test that signs into QAWolf.com with an invalid email and verify that an error message shows up. So we can see here, the first one I did on our latest build on staging, so we'll see how that goes. That was really risky. But this is a tool that are 60% of tests that are being created with our AI today. We can talk about why it's not 100%. But this is going to go ahead and sign in. It might be hard to see here, but we can follow along. And it's going to type in an invalid email. And then it'll create the test code. You can see there's no code here. And we can see here, oh, this other one was listening to me, so that messed it up, sorry. Let me start that over. But while this is going, yeah, I can actually pop out this browser. Let me zoom in. So it's almost done. But computer use is like the slowest model we use. In a year from now, it's going to be 10 times faster. What's cool is, what I was trying to demonstrate is you can actually open up a bunch of tabs and do this all in parallel. And our QA engineers are opening up 10 tabs. They're investigating failures while they're creating tests, giving AI feedback. So we can see here, I'm going to zoom back out just because you can't really see the whole thing. We can see here it created this very simple test. I don't have much time in this talk. But I can now run this test and verify did it work. So here, it created that test super quick. It's not perfect. I'd probably want to ask it to use Faker, to randomize the email and go back and forth. And this is on a really simple test. But what's exciting is that this does dramatically speed up the amount of time that our QA engineering needs to deliver this automated test coverage. And where we believe the future is going, I get a lot of questions from CTOs, CIOs, QA managers that are looking for like a silver bullet. They can just use a tool and get test automation done for them. We don't think that's in the near future. We believe that the future is not going to replace the need for humans, for coders to do this work, but it's going to allow you to get 10 times as much from that same team significantly faster. And with that, we see a future where the majority of companies have high automated test coverage. They're able to accelerate their ability to ship features without shipping bugs. So if anyone, I have a few minutes for questions, I think. And if not, would love to talk about test automation with anybody at the happy hour after this. Thank you.
By the way, we used you in my last job. It was awesome, so thank you. The LLMs are progressing so fast, and LLMs are learning to write regular tests. How are you benchmarking against them, identifying areas to stay ahead, identifying areas to leverage that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just to repeat it, LLMs are constantly evolving. They have different capabilities. How do you benchmark them? Is that your question? And then they also can generate tests.
They're good for tests now. How do you investing in the right areas as a company to not just kind of get the same?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot to testing. We really focus on end-to-end testing versus unit testing. We think that like our whole engineering team uses Cursor. We use Cursor. It helps us generate unit tests, integration tests. There's a whole new slew of problems when you get to end-to-end testing that we don't see working really well using a Cursor. We can talk about those after, but we're focused on a lot of the end-to-end testing problems, which you usually need to have your full system set up, and that introduces lots of complexity. And then, also part of your question was, how do you measure LLMs? I think in terms of building these agents, where we're investing really significantly is evaluating how well does our agent do across all of these different tasks. And so we've tried a few times switching out the LLMs. It's interesting to see the trade-offs between speed and capability. And where we're optimizing, which is different than I think a lot of tooling companies, is we're responsible for delivering this coverage. So it doesn't make sense for us to roll out something that's actually saving our team time. We found that the speed is actually many times more important than the quality. You can kind of like force the LLM with enough explanation to get better results, but speed is really important for like saving time and profitability. But evals are really important to invest in, as you're building any sort of agent, because it's really hard to evaluate without those. Thank you.
One of the painful things about like end-to-end testing is as you change your code, you have to like do end-to-end tests, right? They're testing the old functionality, not necessarily the new product functionality. How do you kind of see LLMs automating QA testing helping with your code changes?
Yeah, definitely. So that was one of the major challenges, test maintenance, that teams run into. We spend, we spend a lot of our QA engineering team's time on test maintenance. So the goal is how do you shorten the feedback loop? And what's really good about LLMs, they're good at code generation. Once they understand what needs to be fixed, it can submit a good fix. But like was mentioned earlier, getting them good context to solve that problem. A lot of the problem lies within, is this a real bug? Is it intended? Companies treat bugs very differently. We're working with hundreds at this point. Some companies consider any little change a bug. Other companies want to be known about significant changes. And so there's a lot of context to be able to do maintenance effectively. Our QA testers what?
Are they employees or are they more like a gig?
Yeah, so all of our QA engineers, they're employees in the US. We also have a team in the UK and Australia for 24-hour investigation. We've done a lot of exploration of hiring in different geographies to see, can we get more cost efficiency here by outsourcing? This will be the last question. And And we haven't seen that be. So like, if you're charging per hour, your incentive is to charge many hours. It doesn't really matter what you get for that. But we don't do that. So it's really how efficiently can we deliver this test coverage. We have not been able to gain efficiencies by outsourcing versus having a really capable trained team. And I think that's actually a really important challenge for AI and agents is if you have a really experienced team, I'm sure some of you that are using generative AI internally, they're pretty efficient. So it's a high bar for AI to surpass to make them more efficient. And we're just starting to see that play out, which is exciting because of the progress of tech. Thanks for the question. Thank you, everyone.